She wasn't invited to a party, so she didn't burn the castle down. She scheduled its collapse 16 years in advance. That's not revenge, that's architecture. But Maleficent isn't alone. Scar weaponized a story. Thanos weaponized math. 3 villains, 3 strategies, 1 outcome. They win the war before the first blow is struck. Maleficent makes resistance useless. Scar makes resistance illegitimate. Thanos makes resistance immoral. Sun Tzu wrote, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." These 3 proved him right. Tonight, we're breaking down how. It's Princess Aurora's christening. The whole kingdom is there. 3 fairies arrive with blessings, beauty, song, happiness. But someone's missing. Maleficent, the most powerful being in the kingdom. She wasn't forgotten. She was excluded. In royal politics, presence equals legitimacy. Being acknowledged means you exist in the power structure. Being left off the guest list? That's not an oversight. That's erasure. A public declaration. You don't matter. And King Stefan just made the worst miscalculation of his life, because he mistook Maleficent's patience for powerlessness. Most villains would have torched the castle, killed the king, razed the kingdom. Maleficent does none of that. Instead, she walks to the cradle and delivers the most patient act of vengeance in film history. Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, she shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die. 16 years. Not 16 seconds, not 16 days. 16 years of certainty. This is the first principle of pre-battle victory. Make the outcome inevitable. Not chaotic, not random, not dependent on you doing anything else. Just guaranteed. And notice what happens next. Maleficent doesn't enforce the curse. She doesn't send armies or spies or assassins. She walks out, because the curse doesn't need her anymore. They'll enforce it for her. Stefan bans spinning wheels. The entire kingdom destroys its own tools, its own industries, its own economy. The fairies isolate Aurora in a cottage in the woods. She grows up without parents, without identity, without choice. For 16 years, every decision the kingdom makes is defensive. Every birthday is a countdown. Every moment of joy is shadowed by dread. Look at Stefan's face. He's not a king anymore. He's a man waiting for a bomb to go off. Maleficent doesn't need to rule the kingdom. She's turned fear into a self-running system. The guards patrol for her. The king obsesses for her. The fairies hide Aurora for her. She's living rent-free in their decisions. And Aurora? She has no idea. She's not a person. She's a countdown clock in human form. This is what makes Maleficent's strategy so brutal. She doesn't curse Aurora. She curses everyone who loves Aurora and makes them watch, powerless, as the clock ticks down. 16 years pass. Aurora meets a stranger in the woods. They dance. They fall in love. She comes home glowing, and the fairies crush her. They tell her the truth. She's a princess. She's engaged to a prince she's never met. Tonight, she returns to the castle. The life she just imagined? Gone. This is the moment Maleficent's been waiting for. Not when Aurora is happy, when Aurora is broken. A glowing green light appears in the fireplace. It beckons her upward. And Aurora, heartbroken and desperate for escape, follows it. The curse doesn't drag Aurora to the spinning wheel. It invites her. It offers her relief. It offers her numbness. It offers her a way out of the pain, and she takes it. Not because she's cursed, because she's human. Maleficent didn't just engineer inevitability, she engineered vulnerability. She weaponized Aurora's own despair. That's the difference between force and strategy. Force breaks you. Strategy makes you break yourself. And just like that, the curse completes itself. Maleficent doesn't strike the final blow. Aurora does. That's making resistance useless. You can fight all you want. Build walls, burn tools, hide in the woods. It won't matter. Because the outcome was designed into the system from the beginning. Sun Tzu wrote, "He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not will be victorious." Maleficent doesn't attack strength. She waits for weakness. And weakness always arrives on schedule. Sun Tzu warned that all warfare is based on deception. Scar understood something deeper. If you control the narrative, you don't need deception. The truth becomes irrelevant. Maleficent controls the future. Scar controls the past. Because if you can rewrite history, you don't need to win battles. You just need to own the story. Scar doesn't want the throne through force. He wants it to feel inevitable. So he engineers a tragedy. Mufasa dies, Simba flees, and Scar frames it as Simba's fault. Run away, Simba. Run away and never return. That's not mercy. That's narrative control. Scar doesn't kill Simba because he doesn't need to. A dead prince is a martyr. A missing prince is a coward. Scar doesn't just remove the heir. He removes the legitimacy of the heir. And when Simba runs, Scar gets exactly what he needs. An empty throne and a guilt-ridden exile who will never challenge him. Then Scar does something that looks like failure, but is actually genius. He lets the Pride Lands rot. The herds leave, the water dries up, hyenas overrun everything. Why? Because suffering erases memory. When people are desperate, they stop asking why are things bad? They start asking, how do we survive today? Scar doesn't need the Pride Lands to thrive. He needs them to forget what thriving felt like. By the time Scar fully takes power, resistance isn't just hard, it's unimaginable. Because resistance requires believing something better is possible, and Scar made them forget. Years later, Simba returns. He's grown, he's ready to fight. He climbs Pride Rock and roars, and Scar doesn't fight him. He delegitimizes him. Murderer. Scar forces Simba to confess in front of the entire Pride.
Tell them who's responsible for Mufasa's death.
Even though it's not true, even though it was an accident, even though Scar orchestrated it, none of that matters, because Scar controls the story. And in the story, Simba is the villain. That's the power of narrative illegitimacy. You don't have to beat your enemy in combat. You just have to make sure no one believes they deserve to win. Scar has Simba exactly where he wants him. Defeated, delegitimized, dangling from a cliff. And then Scar whispers the truth. I killed Mufasa. Why does he confess? Because he thinks it doesn't matter anymore. He thinks he's already won. He thinks the story is locked in. That's his mistake. Because Simba doesn't fight for the throne. He fights to rewrite the story. Scar made resistance illegitimate, but legitimacy isn't permanent. It's a story, and stories can be rewritten. Maleficent makes resistance useless. Scar makes resistance illegitimate. But Thanos makes resistance immoral. And that makes him the most dangerous of all, because he doesn't want you to fear him. He wants you to agree with him. Thanos frames genocide as mathematics. The universe has finite resources. Populations grow unchecked. Suffering is inevitable. Unless you remove half of all life. It's not cruelty. It's mercy. It's not murder. It's balance. And here's the horrifying part. He actually believes it. Gamora's planet was starving. Crime, poverty, collapse. Thanos wiped out half the population. And now, it's a paradise. That's what makes him terrifying. He's not lying. He's not cynical. He's not power hungry. He genuinely thinks he's saving the universe. And that sincerity is his weapon. The Avengers fight him at every turn. Wakanda, Titan, the Snap. And every single time Thanos lets them fight, he doesn't avoid battle. He welcomes it. Why? Because every time they fight him, they prove his point. Look at the collateral damage. Look at the cost of resistance. Look at how much suffering the heroes cause trying to stop him. In Thanos' worldview, they're making it worse. They're choosing chaos over order, sentiment over logic, pride over survival. He's not just defeating them, he's making them look selfish for resisting. And then he does it. He collects all 6 Infinity Stones. He snaps his fingers. Half of all life in the universe, gone. But notice what happens immediately after. Thanos doesn't gloat. He doesn't conquer. He retires. He sits on a quiet farm and watches the sunrise, content, at peace. Because in his mind, he's not a tyrant. He's a martyr. He did what no one else had the strength to do. He made the hard choice. He sacrificed everything, including Gamora, the only person he loved, to save the universe. I'm sorry, little one. He means it. And that's the trap. Thanos doesn't want obedience. He wants validation. He wants history to remember him as the savior, not the monster. He's not fighting the Avengers. He's fighting for the moral high ground. This isn't fantasy. Political movements do this. Corporations do this. Empires do this. Control the future through fear. Control the past through narrative. Control morality through framing. By the time you notice, the vote, the market, the war, the outcome was already decided. 5 years later, the Avengers reverse the snap. They bring everyone back. Thanos watches his life's work unravel. What does he do? He escalates. I will shred this universe down to its last atom and create a new one, teeming with life that knows not what it has lost, but only what it has been given. This is the moment Thanos breaks his own strategy. He abandons the moral framing. He abandons the mercy argument. He goes from savior to tyrant. And the second he does that, he loses. Because the Avengers don't fight a savior, they fight a dictator. And dictators can be killed. Tony Stark snaps his fingers. Thanos and his army turn to dust. Not because the Avengers were stronger, but because Thanos gave them a villain to fight instead of a philosophy to wrestle with. He made resistance moral again, and that was his fatal flaw. 3 villains, 3 near-perfect strategies, and they all failed. Why? Because winning before the battle requires total control. The future, the narrative, the moral frame. Lose it, and the design collapses. Let's start with the one who thought he controlled the story. Scar didn't lose because he was weak. He lost because he was alone. He built his reign on fear. The hyenas followed him because he fed them. The pride tolerated him because they had no alternative. That's not loyalty, that's survival. And survival loyalty disappears the second a better option arrives. When Simba returns with legitimacy, with memory, with proof of truth, Scar has nothing. No coalition, no believers, no one willing to bleed for him. He owned the narrative, but no one loved him enough to defend it. The moment the story shifts, the hyenas turn, because power built on fear is rented, and rent always comes due. Scar made resistance illegitimate, but he forgot something critical. Legitimacy isn't controlled by the ruler, it's granted by the group, and the group can change its mind. Thanos believed something even more dangerous. He believed logic would win. He solved the equation. Finite resources, infinite demand. Remove half, balance restored. He thought once people saw the result, fewer mouths, more resources, stabilized planets, they would understand. They would accept it. They would thank him. But humans don't live inside equations. They live in meaning. The second the Avengers reverse the snap, his philosophy collapses. Not because it was disproven, because it was rejected. And rejection is stronger than logic. He made resistance immoral, but morality is a story, and stories belong to the survivors. The moment he abandons the savior narrative and declares he'll destroy the universe entirely, he stops being a philosopher. He becomes a tyrant, and tyrants are easy to fight. And now we return to where this began. Maleficent, the architect of inevitability. Her strategy was almost flawless. She programmed the kingdom. She weaponized time. She turned fear into a self-running machine. But she made one mistake. She made it personal. She cursed one girl, and one curse creates one solution. One prince, one kiss, one moment of vulnerability. If she had cursed the land itself, the water, the crops, the air, there would be no hero's journey. No single act could break it. But revenge narrowed her target, and narrowing a target creates a pressure point. Sun Tzu warned that when you surround an enemy, you must leave them a way out. Maleficent left one, not out of mercy, out of ego. She didn't want to destroy the kingdom. She wanted Stefan to suffer, and revenge always carries a flaw. It needs a witness. The moment Prince Philip breaks the curse, her entire structure collapses, not because her strategy was weak, but because it was emotional, and emotion always leaves an opening. Pre-battle victory is the most powerful strategy in war. Control the future, and resistance becomes useless. Control the narrative, and resistance becomes illegitimate. Control morality, and resistance becomes immoral. But here's the truth they all ignored. Control is brittle. It looks invincible. Until it isn't. The moment someone rewrites the story, the moment someone rejects the math, the moment someone chooses love over fear, the entire structure fractures. Because systems can be engineered, but meaning can't. And meaning is what people fight for. Maleficent, Scar, Thanos. They won before the battle began, and they still lost. Because no one, not even a sorceress, a king, or a titan, controls everything. And the second you try to, the war begins. But what if a villain didn't need fear? What if he didn't need loyalty? What if he didn't need logic? What if he could reach into your mind and make you choose him? Next time on Your Hidden Playbook, we meet the most dangerous kind of villain. Not the one who controls the battlefield, the one who controls you. Why Jafar is the most sinister villain. Power through mind control. From Aladdin, 1992. Because some villains don't control time, or stories, or morality. They control you. And when a villain controls the mind, the war doesn't even feel like a war. But mind control didn't start with Jafar. It started with a voice. Then it became a narrative. Now it becomes the mind. The pattern reveals power. This is your hidden playbook. Subscribe, decode the game, control the board.